Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're making a garden obelisk. Now I know that there are some of you out there that are saying, what the heck is an obelisk? Well guys, it is a self-standing or self-supporting multi-sided trellis for your climbing vegetables or climbing plants in your garden. And it's going to be made out of simple materials so that it makes it accessible to everybody. And it actually starts off with some 2x4s. So the project, as I said, starts off with 2x4s. And the very first thing that I want to do is I want to cut off both of the sides, that rounded edge. I want a little more of a crisp edge to work with. And we're just going to do that over here at the table saw. And now with one edge cleaned up, we will rip these into 5/8 by 5/8 strips. Okay, so out of one 2x4, I've got 8 pieces that I got out of it that are 5/8 by 5/8 by 8 feet long. Some are a little twisted, some are a little warped, and you know what? Don't worry about it. Remember what this is. This is big box store 2x4s, and although they bill it as premium lumber, the only thing premium is the price. So if it's a little twisted or a little warped, don't worry too much. That's going to happen anyway as this stuff finally does its drying out. So what you want to do now is pick 2 of your straightest pieces and cut 2 4-foot lengths. For me, I'm going to be building 2 of these at once, so I have 4 pieces set aside. So you will need 4 lengths at 4 feet long. So what I've done in each one of our 4 4-foot long pieces is right here at the top, 7/16 of an inch down from the top and centered, I have drilled and countersunk for a number 8 screw. As well, I have this piece of oak. Now you can use any hardwood that you want, but this is basically our top kind of cap that holds everything in its shape. This thing is 7/8 of an inch thick, and it is angled on all 4 sides at 7 degrees. I just did this over at the table saw, and at its widest part down here at the bottom, it is 2 1/4 inches square. So right in the middle at 7/16 of an inch up from the bottom and centered on our sides, on all 4 sides, I have drilled a pilot hole. So now using a number 8 by 1.5 inch screw, I'm just going to screw all 4 of our 4-foot lengths into this block of oak. Well, what I've done is I've cut some 16-inch long pieces of our 5/8 by 5/8 stock, and 1 inch in from the end I have drilled a 3/16 diameter hole. I've drilled some pilot holes just slightly above the base level here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw these into the edges of our lower supports. I'll do this on opposite sides of our obelisk. So that's the one side, and we will turn it around and do the same thing on this side. All right, so just like that. Now at this point, what we want to do is take 2 more 16-inch pieces, and just like I said before, 1 inch in from either end, drill a 3/16 diameter hole, and then we will do the same thing, except on this side we will sit it on top of our original pieces, just like that, and we will screw them into the flats of our uprights. Okay, now that is a lot more secure and will now be a little easier for me to work with. So that is the base layer done. So at this point now, we need to add our other layers going up. But let me just show you what this is doing by screwing into the flats here at the bottom. I don't know if it's showing it, but it's actually creating a bit of an interesting twist up here at the top. All of our pieces are actually angled now to get, to get the shape that we want. But either way, what we're going to do at this point is from the bottom, we're going to measure up 12 inches. And we are going to measure across here, leaving an inch hanging out on either side, and see how big of a piece we need. And for this, it looks like we need a piece that will be 13.5 inches long. So we will need 4 of them, 13.5, and we will do the exact same process that we did here at the bottom of drilling a 3/16 diameter hole, roughly 1 inch in from either edge. Measure and check to see how yours is lining up, and then screwing it all the way around our piece until we get our next layer intact. And there we have our next level done. What we're going to do at this point is again come up another 12 inches and add another layer. I may leave the top open at this point. I'm not 100% sure because I think it's too tight to put another piece up there. So here about 12 inches up from our second piece, we will repeat the process, measuring, cutting our piece to length, about an inch overhang on either side, and screw it into place. And then I'll show you what to do after you get that done. Well, I changed my mind and did add an extra piece at the top at the 3-foot mark, just to fill in that space. It was too much of a gap between the two layers, but I just wanted to give this top angle so you can see this weird twist thing that it's doing, how it's going kind of twisted all the way down with each layer. And if yours is like that, don't think it's something that you did. It's the way that the design was. Because these pieces here are screwed in the middle of this piece of oak, it has no choice but to kind of go out on angles, at which point it does tend to twist. Again, the plants don't care, and I think it's kind of a cool design feature, so don't worry about it. So the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to get our drill, and in the corner here of each section of this oak, I'm going to drill a hole down through it. Doesn't have to be a big hole, just maybe a 1/8 diameter hole. And then in the middle of each one of these slats, going all the way down each side, I'm going to drill a vertical hole as well. And then once you get all those holes drilled, I'll show you what to do with it. So what we're going to do, and this step is completely optional, from the top here in one of our top holes, I have this kind of a manila rope or manila string, whatever you want to call it. It's the stuff that you would normally use, say, to tie up a package that you were sending. But what I'm going to do is it's tied off at the top piece of oak there, and I am going to thread it through each one of these holes all the way down. And once we get it at the bottom, we can tie it off and be done with it. And this is just another surface kind of thing for the plants to adhere themselves to and to climb. This step, guys, as far as the string goes, is completely optional. It's very dependent, of course, on the type of plants that you are going to be planting. So, you know, use your discretion here, but a little extra climbing area without getting into more solid stock like the wood is a good thing. So we'll just pull this through. It's kind of fighting me here. There we go. And the last one down through the bottom, and then we'll tie it off. And all that's really left to do here, guys, is we're going to give this thing a good sanding. We're going to remove the string. I'm only doing this one for demonstration at the moment. I'm going to paint this thing white all over. I'll probably just use a spray can of white just to make sure that it gets sealed and fully covered and make it a little easier for me. And then replace the strings, and I'll show you what it looks like in the garden at that point. And there you have it. An obelisk for your garden. Guys, I don't want you to get too hung up on the twist of the lumber or of the warp of the 2x4 or of the knot that is here or the knot that is there or of the crack or the split or the checking. This is not fine woodworking, and this is one of those fun functional projects that you can make in an afternoon very easily in a couple hours, put it together, paint it, and put it in your garden, and it looks great. And I can guarantee you that even with some of the checking and the knots and the twisting, etc., 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 it's still better than the crap that you'd buy at your local big retailer, we'll say. It's still going to look better, it's still going to last longer, and give you something to do in the afternoon. It was a load of fun. Now, those strings that run from top to bottom, those are 100% optional, and it all depends on what it is that you're going to be growing. For my wife, she plans on growing some peas, and they will be climbing, and she's hoping to get them to climb up this obelisk, and having that string in the middle will give it extra room to grow. But you don't need it. If it suits you, add it. If it doesn't, then don't. Now, initially, I tried to lash these pieces together, and guys, what a nightmare, honest to goodness. Pieces were all over the place, the string was giving me problems, it looked like crap, and in the end, I just ended up scrapping the whole idea about lashing and just went with screwing it together. And I think in the long run, it was probably the better way to go. I also don't want you to get too hung up on the sanding of this thing. You have to remember what this is. Again, it's 2x4s. This is not high quality lumber. It's 2x4s. I mean, I'm still sticky from some of the pitch and the sap that was coming out of this stuff. So it's not 100% dry. It is going to twist, and you can sand this thing till doomsday. It's never going to look perfect. It's not like a nicely dried piece of maple. But what it will do is give a surface area that's a little rougher that will allow your plants to adhere and grip and climb up it. So the spray paint, that's all I used to paint this, was a little bit of white spray paint. Nothing crazy. Tremclad was all I used, and I've tried it before and it weathers well. I expect that out of this obelisk I might get 2 seasons out of it. So this year's growing and possibly next year's. After that, it could be touch and go. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But either way, this is a very viable solution if you have a garden where you want to have climbing plants and aren't really sure what to do. You don't really have anywhere that you could place a trellis to allow them to climb. An obelisk is a great solution and a great alternative to some of the normal ways of having them climb up, like a trellis. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. This one's been a lot of fun. It was kind of a fly by the seat of my pants build here, but it all worked out in the end. Now, I guess the ultimate test of whether or not it works is whether or not my wife's garden is successful and whether or not her plants climb it. So I'll be sure to report back on that. Maybe in an update show, I'll let you know how that worked out. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You click that bell and then you won't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. I hope you've enjoyed today's project. I hope you found it useful and that you're going to try it yourself. And more importantly, guys, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.